Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I really hope you guys are enjoying Vlogtober so far. I'm back with another vintage Bible story reading. Let me know if you want to see me finish this book. Just continuing on my channel, I would love to read all of them. So just let me know if you actually are interested in seeing that, and I will continue to post these videos with these. I actually really enjoyed doing this, so I hope that you guys do. These are perfect for your family because these stories are made for all ages. So if you guys want to sit down and have a Bible study with your kids as well, please by all means let them watch these videos because these stories are for everyone. So these are perfect for I don't know, sitting down watching these with your kids if that's what you like doing. But let's get into it. So we're going to start with story number 4 because we had just finished the Fed by Ravens where Elijah was leaving the hiding place that God had found for him. So here's the photo for the next story. Let's begin. As Elijah was wondering what to do next, he saw a woman gathering sticks not far from the city gate. "Water," he called to her. "Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink." Looking up, the woman felt sorry for the poor stranger and hurried off to get some water for him. As she did so, she heard him calling to her again. "Bring me something to eat too," he said. The woman stopped, and a great sadness came over her. "As the Lord thy God liveth," she said, "I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die." Elijah could see she was telling him the truth, and he was sorry for her. He felt sure now that this must be the widow whom God had commanded to sustain him, a widow so poor she had nothing in the world except a handful of meal and a little oil. In such case, he knew something wonderful was bound to happen, and soon. "Fear not," he said kindly to the poor widow. "Go and do as thou hast said, but make me thereof a little cake first, and bring it unto me. And after make for thee and for thy son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth." It may have sounded selfish for him to say, "Make me a cake first," but it really wasn't, for Elijah's faith in God was so great that to him the barrel of meal was already full, and the cruse of oil was overflowing. He was absolutely sure that if the poor widow trusted God's promise enough to make him a little cake first, then God would never cease to bless her in many wonderful ways. The widow decided to trust God. She took him at his word. Going to her house, she looked in the meal barrel. Just as she had told Elijah, there was only a handful of meal at the bottom of it. She scraped it out into a little pile. Then she went to the oil jug. Tipping it up, she drained out the last drop, or so she thought. After mixing the oil and meal into a paste, she prepared to light the fire. Just then, maybe, her son came running in. I can hear him saying, "Is that cake for me, Mama?" "No, darling, it is for the man of God who has come to see us. But I'm hungry." "I know, dear, but he has promised me that God won't let us starve." The fire blazed up. The little cake was put on the hot bricks. It began to brown, and soon filled the lowly kitchen with a sweet aroma. Suddenly there was an excited cry from the boy. "Mama, I thought you said there was no more meal in the barrel." "But there is." "No, darling, there can't be. I scraped the last of it out just now." "But there is. See, Mama, it's a nice new meal, too." The poor widow looked in the barrel and could hardly believe her eyes. There was meal there, more than there had been for many days. She turned to the cruse of oil and tipped it up. Oil flowed out. It was too wonderful. Joy filled her heart. She looked over at Elijah, sitting there waiting for his little cake. There was a beautiful smile on his tired face, a smile of sheer delight that God had honored his faith so soon. Not only Elijah ate that night, but the widow and her son. They had not enjoyed so good a meal in many days. And because the widow did, according to the saying of Elijah, it turned out that she and he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. Oh, what a wonderful time the angels must have had, putting meal in that barrel and filling up that cruse of oil. How happy they must have been watching the surprise on the widow's face when she discovered what had happened. But this was not the only blessing God sent to reward her for his kindness. This was not the only blessing God sent to reward her for her kindness to his servant. One day her son became very ill. Lovingly she tended him, but he became worse and worse. Feeling sure he was dying, she took him in her arms, and there he breathed his last breath. "Elijah, Elijah," she cried. The man of God came down from the loft where he was living. He saw at once what had happened. "Give me thy son," he said to the widow, taking the limp body from the sobbing mother. He then climbed into the loft again and laid the boy on his bed. And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried unto the Lord and said, "O Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again." In parentheses, they have breath right there. And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the breath of the child came into him again, and he revived. Dumb with grief, the poor widow sacredly noticed Elijah as he clambered down from the loft again with the boy in his arms. Then she heard the prophet speak to her. What was that he was saying? "See, thy son liveth." What? Impossible! She rushed across the room. It was true. He was alive. He was breathing again. Oh, joy! Tears of happiness and gratitude streamed down her cheeks as she cried, "By this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in thy mouth is true." 5. Fire from heaven. 3 years had passed since Elijah stood in Ahab's court and announced the coming of the great drought. Part of this time he had spent by the brook Cherith. I had to state in the last video, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Cherith is how I imagine it being said. Part of this time he had spent by the brook Cherith, part with the widow of Zarephath. Many times during these lonely days he must have wondered what God was planning to do next for his people. Had they learned their lesson yet? Were they ready to turn from their idols? Some day the drought must end, but how and when? At last the word of the Lord came to him, saying, "Go, show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth." Elijah set out at once for Samaria, 150 miles or so to the south of Zarephath. On the way he ran into Obadiah, the governor of Ahab's house, who was searching the pasture for the horses and mules that were still alive. This good man was one of the few leaders who remained loyal to the God of heaven. He had shown his loyalty by hiding 100 of God's prophets in a cave when Jezebel had tried to kill them. Recognizing Elijah, he dropped to his knees and cried, "Art thou my Lord Elijah?" "I am," replied Elijah. "Go, tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here." "I can't," said Obadiah. He was afraid. Ahab, he said, had been searching everywhere for Elijah. There had been many false reports as to where he had been seen, and these had served but to make the king more and more angry. "Now," said Obadiah, "if I tell Ahab you are here, and he finds you have disappeared again, he will kill me." "As the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand," said Elijah, "I will surely show myself unto him today." Obadiah believed him and rode off to find the king. On hearing the news, Ahab went at once to the place where his servant had said he would find Elijah. The prophet was still there. "Art thou he that troubled Israel?" he demanded angrily as he drew up his horse close to Elijah. "I have not troubled Israel," replied Elijah without flinching, "but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Balaam." Something in the tone of the prophet's voice or in what he said made a deep impression on the king. He was speechless. If he talked about the terrible drought or the need of rain, the Bible does not say, but Elijah certainly told him what he must do if he wanted to know the blessing of God again. "Now therefore, send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table." No doubt Elijah explained why he wanted such a meeting, so that the people might decide once and for all whether they were going to serve the God of heaven or false gods, whose idols had been set up all over the land. The king agreed to the plan, perhaps as the only hope of getting rain and breaking the dreadful drought. When he returned to his palace, he sent out messengers, calling the people to assemble at Mount Carmel. Soon thousands of men, women, and children were streaming towards the place of meeting. None were quite sure why they were going there, only that the king had told them to. There was a rumor that Elijah was going to be there, but nobody believed it. Similar tales had been told about the prophet for the past 3 years, and he had never shown up. Hadn't the king himself been looking for him all this time? Pushing and jostling one another, the people trudged and stumbled up towards the top of Mount Carmel, until all the slopes were covered. All night long they stayed there, waiting for the dawn. Early in the morning, someone cried, "There he is! I can see him! Elijah is here!" Instantly the word swept through the waiting throng. Men and women strained their necks to see the man who had dared to defy the king, while boys and girls showed their way to the front to get a better view. "Hush!" cried someone. "Hush! He is speaking! Elijah is speaking!" Silence fell upon the milling crowd. Then from the top of the mountain came that deep, powerful voice once heard in Ahab's court. How long hold ye between two opinions?" cried the prophet. "If the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him." Nobody spoke. The people answered him not a word. Elijah continued, "I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them, therefore, give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under, and I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under, and call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and God that answereth by fire, let him be God." "Well said, that's fair enough," cried the people, thrilled to learn that they were to see such a test of the powers of rival gods. From now on they watched and listened with tenfold interest. Turning to the prophet of Baal, Elijah said to them, "Choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call upon the name of your gods, but put no fire under." Glad for the chance to prove that Baal was the greatest god on earth, his prophets seized their bullock, cut it up, and placed the pieces in order on the altar they had built. Then they began to implore their God to send fire to burn the sacrifice. "O Baal, hear us," they cried, but there was no voice nor any that answered. They started to leap up and down around the altar, crying, "O Baal, hear us," but still no fire came. I like how whoever owned this book previously, their child drew all over this, and I feel like that's the only picture they drew on. So I don't think their kid liked that very much, which I just find that funny. I mean, they drew on the back of the book too. All morning long they kept up the wild dancing and shouting. At noon Elijah mocked them and said, "Cry aloud, for he is a god." At noon Elijah mocked them and said, "Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth, and must be awakened." At this they cried still louder, and began to cut themselves with knives, till the blood gushed out upon them. It did no good. Midday passed, afternoon came. How would that benefit you in any way, shape, or form? Like, I'm sorry. Even if, like, to what God would want you to do that is just beyond my understanding, but okay. It did no good. Midday passed, afternoon came. The sun began to sink towards the gray-green sea. Still, there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. Presently, Elijah spoke again to the people who were tired and disappointed in the future of the prophets of Baal, in the failure. Presently, Elijah spoke again to the people who were tired and disappointed in the failure of the prophets of Baal. "Come here unto me," he cried, and the crowd surged forward. Then they watched him repair the altar of the Lord that used to stand upon this mountaintop, but had been forgotten and had broken down. Taking 12 stones, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel, he rebuilt the altar, then dug a trench around it. Next he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood. Then, to everybody's surprise, he said, "Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood." The water was brought, maybe from the sea, for all the springs had all dried up, and poured upon the altar. Some said, "Does he expect it to burn with all that water on it?" But if Elijah heard, he took no notice. "Do it the second time," he said, and they did. "Do it the third time," he said, and the sacrifice was soaked again until water poured into the trench and filled it. Now nobody could say he set fire to the sacrifice himself. Suddenly a hush fell over the great assembly as Elijah raised his voice in prayer. Everybody listened, even the prophets of Baal, who had ceased their shouting. "Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel," he cried aloud, "let it be known this day that thou art the God in Israel." "And that I am thy servant, that thou have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Sacredly, I don't know if it's scarcely here. I think I'm dyslexic, so correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that's sacredly or scarcely. I can't tell. He had finished praying when there was a flash of flame from the skies as the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. It was a marvelous, never-to-be-forgotten sight. Terrified, the people fell on their faces, crying, "The Lord, he is the God! The Lord, he is the God!" They saw what a mistake they had made in worshipping the worthless idols of Baal. From now on, they would serve Jehovah, the God of Elijah. With their own eyes, they had seen his power, and never again would they forget him. These chapters were longer than the ones I read previously, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the video there. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. I will be reading Story 6, A Cloud Like a Man's Hand, in the next video, if you want to continue this series. Also, these books are written, this is the Bible story, and it's written by author Maxwell, is the author of this. I don't really know if you can find these anywhere, but if you're interested in them, these are, like, honestly, in my opinion, the best, like, modern rendition of Bible translation, like, putting it into your own words, kind of, because it takes the actual stories from the Bible, and they quote the Bible a lot in here, but it takes actual stories from the Bible, and it puts them into more understandable terms for younger people, or adults too, I don't know. It just makes them more understandable. I believe these books are for children. I'm not sure, but they're good books nonetheless. The author writes a bunch of children's stuff, so that's why I'm saying I think these might be geared towards kids. Also, the pictures just kind of seem as if they're geared towards kids, but if you guys are interested in getting these, I don't really know where they sell them. I bought the last 2 sets I could find a couple years ago, because I had these when I was a child and I just really wanted to get them again. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next video.